Hello, everybody, and welcome to Late Night Football. Yes, it's a Monday episode, and yes, I have a new look. That's right. I just got it done today. I've been wanting to keep I guess it's called a French beard, right? I've been wanting to keep this to change it up for a while, but kept putting it off, and I've finally done it. Let me know in the comments section what do you think, and smash a like if you like my new look. I obviously appreciate any feedback. Although please don't troll me, I would be very upset if you did that. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into the show. Let's start the year for football. So let's get right into it. So just give me a second. I'm gonna try to fix my camera quickly. That's better. All right, so let's get right into it. Let's talk about the issue at hand. And a big question, actually, there's two big issues that came out of the weekend. One of those was VAR, but the other one, more timely, I think, is about player injuries. We'll leave VAR for this week because we keep talking about it a lot. We've talked about it a lot and we keep talking about it. So maybe we'll leave that one for now. We'll talk about player injuries because that is such a significant issue, especially in the Premier League. There's a lot of injuries happening, and if you look at a cursory glance, by the way, there's a website. If you Google it, it's called the PremierInjuries.com. By the way, so if you go on that, you can actually check out the number of players that are injured, and there's so many of them. I think everybody, and the lowest is Everton, who only have 3 players out. I think that might upset Liverpool fans a little bit. Sheffield United have only 3. Spurs only have 2. By the way, West Ham have 1. So when you look at it, there's actually a disproportionate amount of injuries for the likes of Manchester United, Newcastle, Liverpool. Maybe the other clubs may have not reported injuries, or they're not so serious. They're getting small short-term injuries. Liverpool obviously are really badly affected, but it's actually Manchester United that have the most number of injuries. Surprise, surprise. Although that does include players like Phil Jones, and I think it includes Phil Jones, Marcus Rojo. Is Marcus Rojo included in this? No, probably not. But even Paul Pogba, Marcus Rojo, Phil Jones is permanently injured, so you can't really do anything about that. I don't think any of you is available. It would matter much. Luke Shaw perennially injured. Paul Pogba is on his annual injury vacation that he takes every year, where he takes a few months off with injury. So you can't count a few of these players, but yeah, they do have the most number of injuries. Of course, Eric Bailly as well, another one of those who plays football in between his injuries. So it's weird, but I mean, when you think about all the injuries and what's happened a lot is that a lot of managers have been complaining about the fixture schedule. They've been complaining about the number of games that players are playing, the fact that there's not adequate rest. There's whole Wednesday, Saturday debate that's happening as well. And I just thought, it's interesting that to hear these comments, and where do we stand? What is it? Is it complaining for the sake of complaining? Is there merit to the arguments? Is there a solution for these arguments? That's what I was thinking, and I thought maybe I'll do this video. Let me see if I can uncover some of the things. Maybe see if I can make sense of what is being said and what is happening. So, I mean, first off, we've said this. I've said this 1,000 times. People on this show have said it 1,000 times as well. The 5 subs rule was important. It needed to happen this season. They needed to have 5 substitutions allowed. They didn't pass it. I think that was a big mistake. Right at the bat, right at the start of the season, they should have allowed the 5 subs rule to be implemented. The smaller clubs, the so-called smaller clubs, they decided not to pass it, and they decided to keep it at 3 subs. And I'll talk about the reasons why a bit later on. But that, I think, has made a massive impact on what has happened this season, and why there are so many injuries already, even though we're just 10 games in. But if you look at that injury table, actually, there's not a lot of clubs have got injuries, but a lot of clubs don't have that many injuries. There's 2-3 injuries here. That's quite normal, actually, to have 2 or 3 injuries in a game, in a team at this point. But that's, the likes of Sheffield United, Everton, Fulham, they probably wouldn't be too unhappy about the fact that they have less injuries, and so they probably feel, what the big clubs complaining about. But maybe this list is not updated, but it looks fairly updated. So West Ham only have 1 injury, by the way, right now. So there can be merits for that, but not having 5 subs, I think, was the first mistake that has contributed to this. But that's not the only reason why this has gone. I think we have to go back all the way to look. Jurgen Klopp. I mean, I'm going to pick Jurgen Klopp because he's the most prominent voice in this. But Pep Guardiola has talked about it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has talked about it as well. David Moyes, kind of in his own Moyesy way, was like in the middle of like, oh yeah, maybe you should change it, kind of thing. So there have been managers that have talked about it. But you got to go back. The reason why this whole mess has started, the fact is the fact the games are being crammed. Right? They've been crammed so close together. Where you can play. Why has that happened? Because last season ended late. right? Why did that happen? Because we had a lockdown, and during because of COVID-19, there was a pandemic. A lot of people have suffered from that. Footballers have also suffered a little bit, maybe not to the extent that the common people have suffered, but fair enough. I'm not going to make light of issues they've suffered. But the fact is, what did we all say at that point? What did so many fans were saying? If the football, a good option would have been to cancel the season at that point and restart in August or September, whenever football is safe to start it, and then go from there and play from there, right? But and Liverpool fans were all like, oh, we're trying to cancel the league. Liverpool, we want Liverpool to win the league, so we gotta give Liverpool the league. That fans are all like, this is anti-Liverpool or whatever. But maybe quite a few fans were anti-Liverpool. Maybe I myself can be claimed to be guilty, although my reasoning at that time was not that it had anything to do with Liverpool. I think the fact is that the season should have been cancelled. If they had to give Liverpool the title on points per game, so be it, let them have the title. But I don't think they should have continued the season at that point. They did it because, and the reason why they did it was not because of footballing reasons. This wasn't anything to do with Liverpool winning the title, by the way. The reason why the clubs agreed is because they were losing money hand over fist because of fans not playing. So they wanted that broadcast TV money, right? And at that point, it was okay, right? When you want to get broadcast money and you want to, and you want to have those 10 games to 12 games, whatever was left over, you wanted to complete those at that time. That was fine, right? Then it's all okay because everybody's fine. Liverpool win the title, blah blah blah. Klopp's very happy with the schedule, apparently, right? Pep Guardiola is pretty happy because he's gonna, because he gets to play all these games and and get his team fitness-wise ready for the Champions League tilt or whatever, right? Nobody's complaining at that point. And then they had 5 subs, by the way, at that time, but that's fine, right? And then all of a sudden now this season, when things are not going his way, Jurgen Klopp starts blasting the schedule, and Guardiola's come out and complaining about the schedule, and Solskjaer's talking about it as well. I mean, isn't it surprising a little bit to think about the teams, the three managers that are complaining the most, is two of those are probably underachieving with their teams, where their clubs should be. They are not where their clubs should be. I mean, City should definitely be top two. Manchester United probably should be in the top four race. Well, they anticipate themselves to be in the top four race. United don't have a team that's going to be anywhere near the top four, but they anticipate themselves to be in the top four race, and they're not. And Liverpool obviously want to be top and 5, 6, 10 wins out of 10 or whatever at this stage. And the fact that they're second probably grates them a little bit. So it's the teams that are probably not where they want to be are the ones that are complaining, right? And that's, I mean, and again, I'm not saying that Sheffield United with 1 point at the bottom, very happy where they are. They probably are not as well. But I think they probably didn't expect themselves to be anywhere better than a relegation fight. So they probably don't want that to change. So, there is a little bit of hypocrisy there. I'm not going to deny there's a little bit of hypocrisy there from the managers. But again, the reason why we have such a scram schedule is because we had to finish the last season. And now they have to come to this season. They've got to again shorten it because of the summer tournament, which is the Euros, right? So that's an issue. That's a massive issue that's taken precedence. And basically, at this point in time, what are the options, right? The broadcast money is absolutely important. Clubs want that broadcast money because now they're not having fans. They're not going to have full stadiums for a while. Fans are coming back by the way, from tomorrow. Technically, fans are supposed to re-enter stadiums. I think it's tomorrow or day after. I think December 2nd probably is when fans can start coming to the stadium, but not full stadiums. Sorry, 2,000, 4,000 fans. That's what you're going to get at best. So this, or 50% capacity at best. That's what you're going to get. So you're going to have those number of fans in the stadium. But broadcast money is going to be important for these clubs to survive because they've all been overspending beyond their means. They all anticipate big fat contracts, and they spend big amount of money on players. So they need that money. So you can't just say, what, I want my money, but I also want a schedule that fits what I want. I mean, obviously if the TV company is going to pay you £10 million for your matches, they want to make sure that your matches are shown at the time that fans can watch it. They want to make sure that they show as many matches as possible because they're paying that money. And they need the return on their investment. So I don't get it why, so again, you could make an argument that yes, maybe TV companies should be more accommodating, but then Premier League has been getting so much of money from broadcasters that there is an expectation of return on investment. With the smaller deals that the Serie A and Bundesliga probably don't even generate 50% of the TV revenue that the Premier League generates. So they probably have more flexibility in their deals, whereas Premier League clubs don't. And that's just a consequence of what has happened so far. That's just a consequence of always being greedy and wanting more money. And so then that's what happens, right? At some point it comes back to bite you, and it has come back to bite them. And the big clubs keep pushing the value of their deals, and they've been asking for more money for themselves. well, they're the ones who are going to have to suffer. They're the ones who are going to have to pay the consequences. And again, people will say, oh well, the players are human, right? It's not about that. But the fact is, who pays the players' salaries? The clubs. Where does the money for the clubs come from? It comes from the broadcasters, right? A major amount of that cash is coming from the broadcasters. So the players, if they really then they should not probably say, you know what, we can reduce our salaries and take less money from the broadcasters. Would they do that? They wouldn't do that, right? Manager Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, they're very well paid managers, right? Where is their money coming from? They're not doing this altruistically out of the goodness of their heart. They're taking money from the club, and where does that money come from? So the fact that the TV broadcasters are in a sense paying the salaries of the managers and the players, I see it as, if I was a business owner, I would be like, well, suck it up. We are paying you so much money. We expect you to fulfill obligations of your contract. And if you can't, then that's too bad. But you're gonna have to do it. I mean, that's and there is an argument for that as well. And I get it. The people, players are not robots. But yeah, players are not robots. That's true. But then it's up to the clubs. And the big clubs have big squads. I mean, what's the point of having a 30? I mean, Chelsea probably could field 3-4 teams with all the players that they have on loan. They could probably field 3 or 4 teams. I'm sure Liverpool could do the same. They could bring players in from the youth systems, and all the players that they keep poaching, all the players that they keep holding. Liverpool, City, United, they all do it. And so why not play them? Give them a shot. Let's see if they're good enough. As a United fan, I probably hate it. I probably hate to see a defense of. I mean, probably this defense probably sucks anyway, so I shouldn't say defense. But I would hate to see a midfield that doesn't have Bruno Fernandes in it. I would be absolutely upset if Bruno Fernandes was injured. But at the same time, I can't. That's the whole point. That's why you have squads. But that's it's part and parcel of the game. You have to accept it. You have to find ways to rotate players, rotate the squad, to rest players. You got to do that as a manager, as a club. You got to find a way to do that. I'd be upset, but I can't. There's nothing to complain. It's the money that is coming from the broadcasters, especially now more than ever. That's important. So you can't blame the broadcasters for wanting to maximize their investments. And you can't now, as a player or manager, you can't turn around and say, what, I make $10 million a year. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying anybody makes that, £10 million a year. But you know what? I'm going to complain against the hand that feeds me. No, you can't. Right? You took that money, you made that commitment. Now you've got to pay. Now you've got to pay the price. And this is where I get really upset. Is when Andy Robertson tweeted this. By the way, I wish people would listen to the people who are actually playing the game, right? People who are actually playing the game. Well, they don't care about. Well, the people who are playing the game don't speak up when they get those big contracts are signed and those big and they get those big money deals for themselves. They don't seem to complain that, oh my God, why is that money coming to me or as a player? They don't complain. Yet now suddenly everybody's worried about injuries and all of that. The players didn't complain when they were asked to come out of lockdown, when everybody and their dog knew that the season was going to have to be crammed last season and then it was going to affect the season. Everybody knew that, right? The players knew that. But no Liverpool player complained and said, oh, you know what? We don't want to play the few games that are going to help us win the league. No, we're going to do that. Right? Nobody complains at that point. And now suddenly everybody's complaining because they're getting injured. And not because they're getting injured, by the way. I don't think they're complaining because players are getting injured. They're complaining because their prospects, their trophy prospects or their season prospects are getting endangered. And that's where hypocrisy comes in. And that's a little bit sad to see, by the way. But on the note of the 5 subs, and like I said, I mean, 5 subs, it's important to have that. I think they should have done that. They made a mistake. But why did that happen, right? I mean, all you got to look at is the fact that the Premier League, most people don't know this, but the Premier League is not actually governed by the FA. The English FA has absolutely no stake or no control over the Premier League. They have a veto on decisions that the Premier League takes, but the Premier League is actually governed by the clubs themselves. They are the ones who run the league, which was the deal that was made back when the Premier League was formed. They are the ones who run the league, just in the way that the EFL runs the Championship, the League One and League Two. So the Premier League clubs decide on what can be done and what can't be done. The FA has very minimal interference, and in most cases the FA doesn't even want to interfere with the Premier League. It doesn't usually interfere in Premier League matters. So it's the Premier League decided. So what has happened now is that because the clubs govern the league themselves, the clubs are always looking out for their own interests, right? And that's quite fair. I mean, why would you care about anything else other than the fact that your club should benefit from anything that happens? But ultimately, that's the way business is done. That's the way things are done here in this world. So that's fair enough. And for any rule to pass, you need 14 clubs to agree. You need 2/3 majority. So basically, you need 14 clubs to agree to any decision that is passed. And the issue with that, of having 14 clubs passing it, is that because of the stratification, you got to look at the fact that Premier League is not like La Liga. La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, all clubs now have 5 subs. right? And they have had much lesser injuries. They also are able to play games. Not they also able to play games like if somebody has a game on Tuesday in the Champions League, they can ask for their game to be played on Friday, right? Or they have a Thursday Europa League game, they can ask for their game to be played on Monday in the domestic league. They have this flexibility because of the fact that they have this. They don't have much bigger deals. They don't have as big deals, and because it's a much different way in which it's operated. So there's a lot more collective interest. Whereas in the Premier League, it's not a collective interest, unless when it comes to asking for more money, then everybody's collectively interested. But when it comes to making decisions for within for the league and for the game itself, of football itself, it's always about individual interests. And the fact is, I mean, and when you look at it from that perspective, right now you've got Everton, you've got Wolves, you've got I've thought, aside from the big six I'm talking about, Everton, you've got Wolves, could probably include Aston Villa and maybe even Southampton, Leicester as well. Probably four or five clubs that outside of that big six, they also have European ambitions. They also want to get into the Champions League. They want to get into the Europa League, and they believe that they have a realistic shot of getting into those competitions, right? And so for these clubs, what they realize is that if the big six clubs have the five subs rule, then they get an extra advantage that they don't want to give. So they're like, well, keep it to three subs because we don't have big enough squads. For example, for Everton, they lost Richarlison and they immediately lost three on the bounce, right? They don't have that depth. They don't have that squad depth. If they lose James Rodriguez, they don't have somebody else who can come in and take his place, right? Whereas for United, I mean, you just have to, for example, for United, just in this last game, if you had the five subs rule, he had three subs. Solskjaer, he lost Dean Henderson he lost David De Gea to injury, he lost Alex Telles to injury. He could bring on Dean Henderson, he could bring on Brandon Williams. He still had Timothy Fosu-Mensah, Daniel James, Juan Mata. He had a lot more options. He could have added a few more options on the bench, and then United can still call on international caliber players from the bench if they need to win games, right? They can still do that. Same with Liverpool. Liverpool, if they have a fully fit squad, they have a really good bench of 9 players. Same with Manchester City. Same for Tottenham. Same for Chelsea. Chelsea, a really, really good team and bench. So what has happened is these guys, they don't want to give them that advantage of having to being able to call upon international caliber players from the bench. And they want them to have that same level playing field, which the likes of Everton and Wolves cannot have. Right? It's not the case in La Liga and Serie A and Bundesliga. It's not that way. Bundesliga is pretty much subservient to Bayern anyway. So for them, it doesn't matter because most of the other teams are more or less on a level playing field. They're not, those that are not, they're not that many. There's not the thing is the stratification is far more pronounced in the Bundesliga, and the teams are at a much more even keel. And I also believe, and there's another part to that, but this is where it comes to. So what it comes down to is because being in the Premier League and being in Europe is such big money and such big bucks at the moment, they don't want to give up that advantage. And so therefore that proposal was not passed. Again, individual interests. Again, individual interests over collective agreement. So when they say, well, I wish they would take the players into consideration. Both the players, why aren't the players speaking up? Why aren't the Sheffield United players speaking up? Why aren't the Wolverhampton players speaking up? Why aren't they saying, you know what, we want 5 subs for our clubs? They aren't speaking up. It's the Liverpool players, the United players. Maybe I don't know whether any United players who've come out and said 5 subs, but I know Liverpool players have not come out. I know a few City players, Kevin De Bruyne has come out and said that as well. So again, it's the clubs that are complaining. Their players are complaining. It's not the smaller club players that are complaining, right? I mean, that's the thing. That's the issue right now. It's the divide between who's big and who's small and who's making noise, right? The noise isn't coming. Not a lot of noise coming at the moment from the smaller club players. Maybe there is. Maybe I missed a few. I'm not saying that all smaller club players are not complaining. I'm sure there are a few that have probably privately or publicly expressed that, you know what, we should have it. But you need more voices from those smaller clubs that need to come out and say, you know what, we want 5 subs. We want to be able to have more rest. During games, and maybe then things will change. But at the moment, it's not coming. There's not a lot of noise coming from players. So that's creating the issue. And the other part of it, of course, is because they are not aligned with the FA, because the FA is pretty much independent of the Premier League. The Premier League operates completely independently. They don't like the fact that their players go on England duty, right? You always hear that managers complaining about, oh, we don't want players going on international duty. We don't want that. You barely hear that. Rarely ever hear that from the German clubs or the Spanish clubs or the other clubs. I haven't noticed. Please let me know in the comments if you've noticed any of the club managers complaining about their players going on a national duty and getting injured or playing too much. I haven't seen that, but maybe you might have heard that. They don't complain about that, and the reason for that is again because they are interest aligned. Because the FA understands. Because the clubs understand that the national team needs players, and the national team also they want the national team to also do well. Premier League clubs don't care about England. They've never cared about England, and for them it's like an inconvenience, right? So I mean, that's it. But what are the solutions, right? Is the whining and complaining justified? To a certain extent, maybe it is. I mean, for sure, and players are getting injured, players are struggling, so it's definitely, it's not without cause. But at the end of the day, you've signed those contracts, your club signed that contract, you signed the contract with that club, your salary is coming because of that reason. So you've just got to suck it up and take it on the chin. Yeah, you know, and it's for me as a fan as well. Surely my club will be affected as well, I'm sure. You know, fact is, going into the game on Wednesday now against PSG, United are going to be without Luke Shaw and Alex Telles. We're not going to have a proper left back, by the way. So, you know, but what can you do, right? What are you going to do? You can't do anything. It's just the way it is. You've got to take it on the chin. You've got to be able to find a way out of it. And otherwise, because that's the deal that you made. That's the deal that you went with. And the time to do the talking, taking a stand, the companionship was a long, long time ago. This should have been done back in April, back in May. But at that time, it was all short-sightedness. It was all about let's complete the league, let's win the league, let's get into the Champions League, all of that. There was all those questions about play clubs wanting certain things. But the fact is, they shouldn't have done it then. They should have that if clubs had a long-term view beyond just their greed for immediate cash, they would have realized what a mistake it was at that point, but they didn't. So now to start complaining, it's too late. It's just too late. Are there any potential solutions? Well, yes, there are. I mean, I don't think the Nations League needed to happen. I don't know why UEFA decided to go ahead with it, but again, then it's again the case of FAs needing money as well, right? Again, greed of money. It all comes down to money. It always comes down to money. And because the FAs wanted money, so they were like, no, we've got to play the Nations League because that's where we are making our money, right? With players playing and watching those games. So they had to do that for money. So they did that, which I think was a mistake, and they should have cut that out. They should have cut out international friendlies. But again, it's about money, it's about greed. So they played the international friendlies as well. What I think should have happened is if they were going to play Nations League and international friendlies, what they should have done was they should have probably put a cap, and they should have said no player can play more than a certain X number of games in this international breaks. So basically, no player can play more than say 140 minutes or something like that. Just make a minutes or like a number of games. So basically what happens is then you've limited the player can only play this much time. As they play over, then you get a fine. The club is fined, or there's like a suspension or something, some kind of fine, some kind of some kind of fine, some kind of incentive, or some kind of deterrent from international teams playing their players too much. The benefit of that, beyond just keeping players fit, would have been the fact that they would have been able to unearth some young talents. I mean, that's ultimately what it is. I mean, if you look at it from the positive, there's an opportunity here for clubs to find new talent, to find young talent that they can bring through from the academy, or somebody that they may have bought and forgotten about. Try new players, try new systems, try new tactics, different tactics. This would have been an opportunity for national teams, and now this is going to be an opportunity for clubs. I mean, think about the fact that Liverpool have now found a very good defender in Nat Phillips. They probably had this. They knew that he was very good. They probably knew he was very good, but they never had a chance to test him out, and they wouldn't have tested him out in a normal season. How many games would Nat Phillips have played if he was playing at Liverpool? Because Van Dijk plays every game. Joe Gomez, and Matip keep rotating between themselves. How many games? Nat Phillips was probably going to play a few cup games here and there, but now they've seen him play in the league. They know now that he's a very good defender. So now they've got a central defensive option. Same with Reece Williams. They probably now know that Neco Williams is not good enough to play at this level. Maybe Curtis Jones has got games as well. So they've got those unearthed that talent. Same with Manchester United, who we've finally seen games for Axel Tuanzebe. We've not yet seen a lot of actually the young players, but there are quite a few young players waiting in the wings trying to get a shot. And that it's an opportunity. Same for Manchester City, who were able to field Delap, right? I forget his first name, but Rory Delap's son played and scored a goal. So there's always opportunities, and you just got to find those opportunities. I mean, a lot of managers keep talking big about wanting to give young talent a chance. Well, here's the opportunity. Give young players a chance and see what they can do. So anyway, now my phone is ringing for some reason. I do not know why, but just give me a second. Sorry about that. But give young players a chance and see how that goes. But anyway, so there is opportunities, there are solutions. It's just a matter of finding a way around them, and being a little bit creative, being a little bit open-minded. But unfortunately, the game is governed by very incompetent people, and it is actually being overseen by very incompetent people. So there's not always solutions, and sometimes people just complain for the sake of complaining. But anyway, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think. Is there a solution for the injury crisis that has engulfed the Premier League? Is there a solution to the overload of games that are taking place? What are the solutions that you have in mind? Let me know in the comment section below. Please smash a like if you enjoyed this video. I mean, I know I went a little bit, I railed a bit, but I feel like that's something that we need to talk about as well. So let me know what you think in the comment section, and smash a like if you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe to the channel if you're new. We've reached 120 subscribers. We want to try now and get to 130 subscribers. So if you enjoy this content, if you want to see more of this, please do subscribe, and we'll keep producing this kind of content. We'll keep trying to create more engaging content for you. So your support will be very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Have a good evening or morning, whatever time you're watching this. And we'll see you again very soon. The Champions League begins tomorrow. So once again, we've got some very big games coming tomorrow and day after. So we'll probably do a reaction show for that as well at some point. But take care. Have a good night or day. Bye bye.